and welcome to a brand new Hong Kong review. I know you guys mentioned for more Hong Kong content from me, and today's video we're talking about the IP Man franchise overview, 1 to 4, including the spin-off. This will be a review slash thoughts and opinions. Basically, I've been really itching to talk about these movies ever since I watched them back in November / December last year. These came in really sneakily in towards the end of 2020, just when I thought I'd seen all the best kind of Hong Kong movies, all the best experiences from Jackie Chan, John Woo and all that kind of stuff. These movies just came out of absolute nowhere. I watched it at a blind buy. I thought, well, let's give them a go, let's see what they think. Oh, they're based off an actual person, grandmaster, the person who trained Bruce Lee. Okay, I'm curious. Watched them. Oh my god, fantastic. As you can tell, I'm really excited to talk about these movies. Of course, I have shown multiple times. I do have the 4K box set edition, which is just glorious. Every time I get time to show it off, I will do. IP Man 1 to 4 and the spin-off Master of Z. So let's start with it all began back in 2008 with the very first IP Man movie, directed by Wilson Yip, who has done all 4 IP Man movies, going from the first one all the way to 2019 for the final entry. A fantastic achievement, 11 years in the making, very seasonal movies, very personal movies, as you can tell from the director and Donnie Yen, which made these movies every so many couple of years. I think there's about 2 or 3 years in between 1 and 2, about 5 years between 2 and 3, and a couple of years between 3 and 4, which it's amazing it's only just finished a couple of years ago. A fantastic sense of, journey, exploring this character. These films are biographical movies, part fiction as well. I think there's a few things made up, a few things ignored in the sense. I think it's very specific in terms of the stories they want to tell and explore the themes with the character and the kind of the state of mind he's in during the time frame. It goes from Japan taking over kind of Hong Kong in the sense, I think during the First World War, all the way to kind of like the 60s, 50s, with Bruce Lee being just on the cusp of his fame. So it explores very different areas of his life and kind of his relationships with his wife, his son, his students, his kind of enemies in the sense, and the values he kind of holds. And it's a fantastic series based on a real life grandmaster that's of course famous for teaching Bruce Lee everything that he knows and other many students. And there's been a lot of different adaptations in terms of books. I think it's a TV series that was done. There's other movies out there as well, which you need to check out, including The Grandmaster. There's a prequel movie as well. There's a brand new kind of IP Man movie that's just been released, I think, last year, which I'm looking forward to checking out. There's the IP Man The Final Fight. There's so many different other takes on the characters and exploring different aspects of his kind of journey. And I think that's absolutely fantastic. The fact this Grandmaster was so celebrated, so well loved, and represents a series of pride in a series of kind of respectful nature within kind of the martial arts kind of community, in terms of kind of, having, good morals, good values, in the sense of being a family man, passing on to his students in a sense. And, the way he kind of takes on his foes as well is very interesting explored. I don't know, obviously, the real life guy in real life. I don't know if he was anything like the film he's portrayed. And you can tell these movies are done with such honor and respect, and you can tell they're so fun to make. And, from the extras and the amount of legendary people that have been a part of it, some of the Hong Kong legends and fighters and people that wanted to be part of these movies, and these are big celebrated movies. The first IP Man movie I think is absolutely incredible, definitive Hong Kong experience, a 10 out of 10, a masterpiece. Maybe I'm going a bit overboard there, but I think this film was absolutely incredible for so many different reasons, in terms of character, in terms of story, in terms of music, the kind of biographical nature, the kind of the messages it's trying to say, the goodwill nature of the character, the real life grandmaster, Donnie Yen, the fighting. Everything about this film is just spot on. It's tick, 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 tick. And when I went into this film, when you're thinking biographical movie, you're thinking, okay, it's going to be a bit slow, it might be a bit boring in a sense, or it might have 1 or 2 fight scenes and that's about it, and it won't have much to say, won't have much impact. And when you're going up against the greats like Jackie Chan, even some of the Jet Li films, or John Woo in a sense, it's hard to be surprised, hard to kind of find that kind of magic again in the sense, there's always going to be films you enjoy and get a lot out of. But there's only a select amount of movies, I would say, that are like absolutely mind-blowing. Police Story, kind of Operation Condor, the kind of, Hard-Boiled. Those films you can't replicate, you can't kind of, recreate those multiple times over and over kind of thing. They are definitive classics within the genre of Hong Kong cinema, and this film belongs on top of the high tier, the high grades among them. And I'm really selling this film, I'm really overselling it probably, but as you can tell, my excitement, my kind of appreciation for this film speaks many volumes. Now, the IP Man movies are biographical / fiction in nature, so that basically means while a lot of it is based on a true story, a lot of it is actual factual, some things are ignored, some things are kind of blown up, or characters that were never there, or moments that probably never happened, but a large portion of it is a true story. I think the first one is the most authentic one between all of them, in the sense I can tell they wanted to go really grounded in nature. I don't think they were planning to do sequels after the first movie, from the looks of the way the film ended, in the sense, and the fact that they do kind of real life pictures and they show the real life grandmaster and the things he did really portray the kind of the sense of history and the sense of the placement of the character during that time. So I think the first movie, from my knowledge, is the most authentic in terms of the biographical nature and not too much over-exaggeration compared to some of the other sequels later on. But the first IP Man movie is absolutely incredible. It's a fantastic journey. And I'll get to other aspects of his character later on in the review, but I want to focus on the first half an hour, 35 minutes, because I think it's absolutely fantastic and quite essential for the film to really do. These films are not particularly long. I think the first film's about 19 minutes, if I correctly. Yeah, about 19 minutes according to the 4K. And it sets up everything beautifully. It sets up the world, it sets up his character, the way he way he treats people, the way he treats his family, the way he treats his friends, the way he treats his enemies, in a sense. And the film establishes the kind of the little community, the little village, very well, and I really like the opening of this film. I think it really sets the stakes really well. And straight away, you've got a person coming into town who wants to challenge all the grandmasters, who wants to challenge all of them, wants to be the best. Because the one common thing about all Hong Kong movies, from what I've seen from Jackie Chan onwards, is that everyone wants to prove to be the best. Everyone wants to be top dog. Everyone's going to challenge everyone to be number one, and this is explored in every Hong Kong movie because that's the idea. It's about respect, about honor. You know, get my dues, because if I'm number one, if I can beat all these others, then surely everyone's going to pay me to learn from my skill sets. And that's the idea, and that's kind of the interesting idea about honor and respect, and kind of challenging kind of the nature of Hong Kong during the kind of early 30s, 40s, and how it kind of evolved later on with the Western kind of influences, with other kind of movies adaptations, and later on with guns and kind of, you know, cheats and kind of blackmails and all that kind of stuff, and people kind of not playing honorably and having gangs and that kind of stuff. So it's interesting kind of see how the evolution of kind of the culture of martial arts and the kind of the respect, the respectful nature and the disrespectful nature, how people come and use it for various different means, in terms of personal game, in terms of getting what's mine, what's my due, and someone who just kind of wants to terrorize and wants to prove to be the best of the best. And these are explored through all Hong Kong movies, from John Woo all the way to Jackie Chan to Jet Li, and this film is no different. But the way it kind of presented in the first 55 minutes is perfect. You know, you got a character that is very high-tempered, who is very kind of like, okay, it's time to earn my right to be number one. And he challenges all the grandmasters, all the people in the village, and he defeats all of them. He gets to the very last one, Donnie Yen, who has got his own kind of little mini palace of building up this kind of first fight we're going to see of Donnie Yen and kind of this kind of other character we're seeing. And when he challenges him, it's fantastic, because not only does it kind of showcase Donnie Yen's kind of restraint, because throughout that entire fight, he is literally thrashing him, this kind of other opponent, this kind of other enemy character that is constantly trying to do everything he can to kind of take him down or get a punch or get a slide in there. But his Wing Chun is so OG kind of boss level that he will not allow him to get punched or injured or anything, and even make jokes saying, in the sense of, you know, don't damage any of the furniture, don't damage any of the vases, my wife will kill me. It makes a very humorous, very kind of light-hearted, very funny sequence, but you can tell how much restraint kind of Donnie Yen's character is holding back. You can tell there's a lot of times he could really take him out, really knock him out in one hit or one punch. He's almost like he's impressed. He's almost like he's testing his challenge, seeing how much he knows, how much he can do. And it's a really good playful scene back and forth. One character giving his all the effort he can, and Donnie Yen is just taking them and dodging them, and he's not cocky or smug or anything. He's just enjoying the fight. He's enjoying the challenge. I don't think he's actually had a worthy opponent within many, many years. This is clearly a guy who, establishing them from the very first opening sequence, with training daily with the kind of the wooden chop boards, in the sense, doing his kind of daily motion, with how much inner peace he's got, how much inner calm he's got, with his kind of skill sets and his kind of the way he is at the moment. You can tell the person, the real life person, and Donnie Yen, the way he plays him, he's got so much years of wisdom, so much kind of knowledge and kind of balance and inner peace within himself. And then it kind of turns into kind of a darker nature kind of tone from that point onwards, because Japan are basically taking over this village. It's a couple of years later. I think it's during World War One, maybe during World War Two, I believe. And Japan, the way they're portrayed in this film, is nasty fuckers, really nasty, brutal people that do not give a shit about anyone. They're using kind of people to kind of as disposable kind of target practice in that sense, and they've taken over this village and they've putting people to work in kind of slave camps in a sense, and doing manual labor, and obviously there's poverty going on, there's not much food, there's not much resources, and you can tell that the spirits are low. You can tell the kind of the pride of this village and the community and the nation. I guess the representation of kind of Hong Kong during that time is at an all-time low, and the film's obviously message and the goal what he wants to try and portray is, you know, having the courage to stand up and do the right thing and try and face against your opponents, your oppressors in a sense, and not take no for an answer. We've seen this multiple times within other war movies, classic within American or British going against kind of Nazis or kind of, you know, Russians in a sense, but never have I really seen much of Hong Kong kind of Chinese versus Japan in that sense, and that aspect of the war and that kind of aspect of history. We don't see much of it, at least I haven't anyway with the films I've seen, and it's nice to get a little bit of insight into those kind of movies. The film really goes in a really brilliant kind of drama about kind of, you know, the IP man's character. He's gone more close to his family than ever before, and you can tell that he's got a lot of honor and he's got a lot of shame, and he's always doing the right thing, and you can tell there's always a good nature, kind of a goodwill to that character. And this is important, and the reason why I say this and why I stress why the character is the way he is and why Donnie Yen plays him so well is because they want to show those values and want to show that kind of goodwill community, goodwill nature, good morals, the idea of injustice and kind of not standing kind of for any kind of that kind of stuff. And, you know, obviously this character's had many years. How there's a restraint, there's an element of kind of inner peace and respect, and he plays the character such like a nice guy, like a guy you want to speak to, a guy you want to have a beer with, a guy you want to just kind of sit down, have a conversation with, and talk history and talk kind of, you know, martial arts. And you can tell this character is beloved by the community, and he is the master in a sense. And I think it's absolutely incredible the way Donnie Yen plays him. His wife in the film as well, I think, is really well played. I think it's really interesting. You can tell with the wife from the grandmaster there's a bit of a neglectful nature in terms of the son being a little bit ignored, and maybe kind of, you know, a little bit of jealousy in terms of, you know, how much love and passion he puts into his kind of Wing Chun and his kind of martial arts and the community. And this film kind of challenges those ideas a little bit, and kind of he gets more back to basics with his kind of wife and his son, and he puts them first best he can. And even his wife in the film says she's never been more happy now than she was before, because before she had to share him with everyone else. Now it's them together as a nice little knitted kind of family. But there's always a sense of understanding there, and I think that's very interesting to kind of explore. There is a level of like respect in terms of, I'm not going to stop you, I'm not going to tell you can't do that, in a sense. It's not a domestic kind of back and forth typical kind of relationship. It's you know, she signed up for it. There's times where she doesn't want that to be the case, but, you know, she understands when he needs to rise to the occasion that she will not stand in his way. And you can tell in the film itself anyway how much his family means to him, in a sense, even though he doesn't portray it in the most conventional way in terms of saying I love you all the time, or, you know, he doesn't say much. He's a very reserved person, he's a very quiet person. He likes to kind of watch and see and listen and kind of take everything in, and like really impacts the character really well in terms of his motivation, in terms of who he is as a good-natured person. But when he's pissed off, you do not want to piss off the IP man, and it has become probably one of the most sensational, most brilliant, fucking mind-bending moments of Hong Kong cinema that I've ever seen. The sequence, which we all know what we're talking about, when he goes into that dojo, when the Japanese general is trying to challenge other kind of, you know, Wing Chun kind of legends, martial artists, to kind of prove his skill sets and to kind of become number one and kind of dominate that kind of village in a sense. He's obviously they're recruiting other people to go in there to basically, you know, if you can take me on, if you can survive, you'll win some rice, you'll win some food kind of thing, or win a day off in that sense. You know, it gets to a point where a character is being killed. Donnie Yen's character, the grandmaster, is pissed off, he's had enough, he is done, and he goes in that mojo and takes on 10 people, and he literally thrashes them. It is glorious, it is brutal, it is nasty. incredible. I did not expect the kind of level of brutal violence portrayed in the film, going from kind of like neck snaps to kind of arm breaks to leg breaks to kind of repeated blows to the face. One of the best things about the entire sequence, and the most memorable things that I always love to see in each sequel, is the constant kind of boom, 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 like 20 combo fucking hits to the fucking face, because that looks so fucking cool, and it's so brutal, it's so nasty, and it's so kind of, you can tell the mindset of that character at that point and the way he kind of feels about the situation he's in, the people he's kind of, you know, trying to help in a sense, and this general's coming in and terrorizing and kind of, you know, calling me out on my skill sets, and I think it's absolutely incredible. That dojo sequence with the 10 people is by far one of the best sequences I've seen in Hong Kong cinema. And of course it leads to kind of the showdown between kind of Donnie Yen's character and this kind of general, this kind of Japanese general. And I don't want to say too much, but let's just say it is a beatdown. It is not a fight, it is a straight up humiliating beatdown, and it is glorious. The first film delivers exactly what you want to see for a Hong Kong experience. You've got great characters, you've got an interesting kind of real life biographical, based on true story aspect, based on history, things that we don't usually see, things that we don't not usually talked about or taught us during our kind of school lessons. It's nice to kind of have a different type of movie that really explores those aspects that we don't see much of. Brilliant characters, brilliant, excellent, terrific fighting, playful kind of sequences, a bit of comedic kind of angles in places, a brilliant supporting cast, a really fantastic lead, a great villain, brilliant, brutal, nasty fight sequences that really earn its 18 rated and such rememberable and burns into my skull when I remember it and laugh every single time I watch it. IP Man 1 is a must own, is a must watch. It is a 10 out of 10 masterpiece Hong Kong cinema experience that everyone needs to watch. IP Man 1, sensational. Then we have IP Man 2, a fantastic follow-up, a brilliant sequel.